I've been painting or struggling with roses my entire life. Friends, they never seem to get easier. And so while I've shown you so many times how to paint a rose, it never seems to be enough. Recently, Marty commented, and it seems I'm not the only one in a war of the roses around here. But oftentimes, in our fragile creative brains, and yes, our creative brains are super fragile and emotional and sensitive, oftentimes frustration equals failure. Am I right? But I say let's turn our frustration into freedom. Because what's the worst that could happen? We paint another rose that ticks us off? Big deal. At least we learned something along the way. Jumping right into it today, I'm using a 1/2-inch dagger, my liner brush, Schmincke watercolors, use what you got though, Dr. P.H. Martin's ink, bleed proof white. The first 2 roses I'm going to paint are on Academy cold press watercolor paper, and the last is on Stonehenge, also cold press. There are so many different ways to do roses, friends. And I'm not very much of a recipe type driven person. So yeah. Now friends, this is another truly real-time lesson today. So just know you're going to hear it all. You're going to probably hear the harvester that's in my field over yonder. And yeah, I did just say yonder. And I got some kids playing outside. So who knows? Who knows? But real time is a good thing. All right. I am using the 1/2-inch dagger. And I've got pointed side down. Now back to the recipe thing. I'm press and drag, little backward C. But that press created kind of a little puddle. And then as I finished the C, I lifted up. So it's kind of like an asterisk, not an asterisk. What the heck's it called? A comma, apostrophe, but it's backwards. Well, backwards depending. And use whatever color, friends. Use whatever color. Pick another color. This is something I do a lot. I won't continue using the same color. These are stylized roses, friends. I'm going kind of halfway and then press and another little C. This is not a backward C. This is a correct C. This is the backward C. Oh, good heavens. See, you get to see it all and hear it all in the real-time videos. All right, clean brush, and then sweep underneath with that broad side, that curved edge of your dagger, and sweep right next door. And then you can drag from that puddle that you made first if you want. But there's no recipe, friends. There's a lot of painters out there that do have kind of a recipe approach, and there is nothing wrong with that. Let me repeat, there is nothing wrong with that. It's just not me. It's just not how my brain functions. Okay, I've got this brush kind of facing, it's not quite parallel, but almost, and press and drag with an even press and then start to lift. I'm gonna grab that same pink with a little bit of the original red. I'm gonna use the short edge here and then press, even press, and then lift. And you can start to see little wonky crazy rose forming. Feel free to switch up your colors. I'm going to add a little bit of something. It's just the first thing my eye went to. Going to just continue that press, that even press and lift with the drag. This time I kind of changed the angle of my brush because I'm coming around this left edge, whereas this side I was kind of doing this. Over here I'm doing this. So it's the same stroke just from a different angle. And then you can take that clean brush again and start to blendy blend some things out. And then at this point, I probably would do a little bit of sketching with my brush. Just some abstract moments, some linear details. This is loosey-goosey town here, friends. This is loosey-goosey rose town. This isn't realistic rose. That's another video that I probably should do because that would be fun. And then I can fill in some of the loosey-goosey sketchiness that I did. And notice as I fill it in, I'm kind of backfilling from the line back to the rose. I'm able to then define these white areas. Now you might be wondering, why are those white? Do we want them to be white? Should they be white? If they look good white, why not? This one looks a little weird white, so I'm going to fill it in with some peachiness. And I don't like that sharp edge, so I'm going to scrub it out. Now while all this dries, I want to let this dry a little bit. Actually, before we really let it dry, I'm going to go in Little bit of like a bright pink, use what you got, use what you love, and a little bit of light pink. Now, I have pastels. You may not have pastels. Use a little white if you want. I'm gonna go right in here with the tip of this dagger and define. Just a few dabs. I'm gonna go right in here with a few dabs. And the reason I'm doing this now, while things are still kind of very loose and not looking like much of nothing yet, is it's kind of satisfying. It gives me a little satisfaction, like, yes, I can do this, I'm heading somewhere. Even a little here, a little stroke, clean my brush and blend it out. Blend some of this out if it's too strong. All right, that looks a little weird. I'm just gonna scrub that out like it didn't happen and go back in. There we go. Little dab of darkness. Ooh, talk yourself up, friends. You know I have that video, Be Kind to Yourself. If you're new here, you're like, what video? Be kind to who? Well, I'm gonna link it below. Check it out. It is a good one. It's a creative mental mindset kind of situation where I teach you how to talk yourself up as you're painting. I'm mixing a little bit of green. Now, I don't do a lot of mixing, friends. I don't do a lot of mixing on the palette, but just felt like it. So use a green right out of your palette or mix something up that you know you love. Okay, back to the brush. We're gonna do a little leaf work while this is just moving and grooving on its own. Letting nature, letting the air current in the room do its thing. And yes, air current in your room can definitely impact your painting. Press, purposely ran into the rose a little bit, lift. Change the angle, so I'm here, and then I'm gonna slightly go here, press and lift. There's not much of a drag here, friends. Press and lift. Notice the angle change. Boom, boom, boom. And then press and lift. Load up that brush again. If you want to change your colors, do it. Press, lift, not much drag. A little bit smaller, press, lift. Angle here isn't changing as much. Rinse your brush. I'm grabbing a little bit of yellow. Use what you have, use what you love. Fill in the middle. Oh, yeah. Simple, simple. Now, I'm just going to the first thing my eye sees. I want to do a very simple press, drag, and lift leaf. Another one here, and another one here. I went to that yellow, and I'm not sad about it. Not sad about it at all. Friends, you could stop here. This captures the essence of rose. It's not perfect. The folds aren't all figured out. The overlaps aren't all figured out, but it's okay, and it's actually lovely. I said in a recent video that I'm kind of like an impressionistic watercolorist, and that's really so true. I'm adding a little bit of like a cobalt turquoise here, any green that you love, bright green, whatever you got, an emerald, a hooker's, yes, there is a hooker's green. Most ridiculous name I've ever heard for. Friends, if you're having fun, I would love for you to give this video a boop. That's a like, and it helps others that might be struggling with roses find this channel and join in on the fun. So I would love that. Notice how I talk with my hands like it's a thing. Oh my gosh. All right, how we feeling? Now, this is all pretty damp. It's a humid day here in Pennsylvania, so I'm going to move on to a different kind of rose, let this dry, and I'm gonna add some detail work later. I've got a number 6 round brush here, friends, and I'm gonna go into this. Oh, this is my Schminke palette. I think this is called Joan Brilliant. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is what it is. Okay, this is much more bold. Boom, boom. Thinking about overlapping like bricks. Change up your color. Really bold, way more abstract. Overlap like bricks. Boom. Okay, fill in a little bit where it makes sense, where it feels good. Make some of these areas thicker. This is more of a full top down. The other one was a 3/4 view. This is more of a full top down. I'm adding in some brightness for contrast. These marks, I'm using the tip of my brush in the middle here and just a dab and a light swoop, Go right in for a darker color and a few little swoops with the very tip of that brush and light pressure. Few lines, swoops, swoops, swoops. Let's get an even darker color. I went in for a green, a blue. I'm just getting a dark, muddy color on my brush. I know it sounds insane. And I'll create a little center there. Even a few really, really light strokes. Notice how I'm bracing the paper with my finger so I don't get a dark, dark, thick line. Look at that. I actually love leaving this on purpose kind of scratchy, dry brush where the paint ran out type of situation. Maybe this is a garden rose and we can go in and do some floppy outer petals if we want. Real floppy. Let's go back into that peachy color. Floppy. Let's do a few more swoops. Swoop here, a swoop here. Like I said, bold, abstract. This could even be a beautiful peony, friends. A little bit of yellow over here. Oh yeah. Love this. Let's get into a few leafy moments. I'm going in with my pastel green here. This is the Academy collection, which is Schminka's student line, which I love. So just a simple teardrop. I went like this, little swoop. So a press, a curve, drag, and a lift. A press, a curve, drag, and a lift mirrored on the other side and fill down the middle. Now that it's all wet, lovely, and juicy, I'm going to go tap in here where the leaf meets the rose and just let it do its thing. I'm not going to touch it again, but at least not right now. I'm not. All right, get a little blue. I want dark. I want dark, dark, dark. I'm going to go into my dark blues, my indigos, my Payne's grays, and I'm going to do a press and lift and a short drag, about a 1/2 inch drag in there. Press, drag, and lift, and that's about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch drag there. Not trying to get too technical, but I know some folks really like a little more technical, a little more exacting instruction, so I'm trying to give it to you. Now start to see how, because I chose that super dark color, that I just kind of like went all around my palette here. I grab whatever looked dark. I'm not thinking about, oh, I need, a phthalo. And no, I just grabbed whatever looked dark with a wet brush. That's it. And I do have a video if you're concerned about, Christy, aren't you messing up your palette? Aren't you making a big old mess of your palette? How does that all work? Friends, I'm going to link a video below to kind of give you some peace of mind when it comes to all the double dipping that I do. And if you're considering doing it for yourself in your painting sessions, trust me, it does not ruin your palette, and watch the video below. Now, I'm going to go back to what I did here. I cut in. So same kind of teardrop, mirror, press, drag, and lift as I did over here. Fill in the middle. I used some dark that was already on my brush and some cobalt turquoise. But the important part was right here where I notched in to define that rose petal. Isn't that gorgeous? Remember, talk yourself up. Tell yourself when you're doing a good job. There's nothing wrong with that. So listen, seriously, somebody is in my backyard on a quad and you might be able to hear it because this is real time. Oh, I love her. I love her. I love her. All right, friends, I hope you're painting along with me. If you are, get into comments. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know the moments that are just nerve-wracking. If you've had any aha moments, I want to hear it. And so does everyone else in the community. We build each other up here and I love it. All right, the first 2 roses are dry. I'm going in with my liner brush with just that same magenta pink. Use what you have. A little bit of an alizarin crimson, or if you have a bright red, mix in a skosh of green. You'll be good to go. All right, now I'm adding a few linear details kind of along the curve of the petal, feeling like I wanted more dimension. So loading up with that same color and doing a press, drag, wiggle, curved mark with kind of some scratchy edges. And I'm using the liner brush still, so I'm feeling the stroke is a little bit out of control, but it's working. So I'm going in certain areas, and by laying down this stroke that has thick and thin areas, it's defining more layers of petals. Friends, you don't have to do this step. If you liked your rose as it was after it was dry, then leave it be. You could do another one and then try this on that one. But I was feeling it. I'm not 100% convinced, but I don't know. It's fun. These marks are interesting. And remember, this is fun. This is freedom. This is mess. This is playing. So just roll with your own punches, all right? I'm loving it. Now, I'm feeling like they're pretty strong, so I'm gonna grab my round brush, clean with a good amount of water on there, just a skosh above damp, and I'm gonna let these colors blend and bleed out a little bit. Now I'm feeling it a bit more. Now I'm liking what I've done. Yeah, this is nice. I'm using a light touch, and I'm letting the tip of that round brush really dig into some nooks and crannies of the overlapping petals to really bring them to life. You can also add linear detail with the bigger brush. You're gonna get a nice thick and thin kind of mark as you follow the contours of the petal, and it's a good thing. Going into the middle here, defining a little bit more with a few more C-curve smiley kind of marks up and around that middle with that same magenta. All right, heading over to this orange cabbage gardeny rose, whatever you wanna call it. I'm gonna be a little bit more precise. I'm just using a bright orange, loaded up about 60% pigment, 40% water. Friends, if you want a deep dive on how to use this liner brush, I'm going to link a video below that's going to help you out a ton. All right, working around this rose, and I'm deciding as I go what petals are kind of curving inward and what petals are curving outward. And that's going to determine where I start my linear details, from which edge of the petal. Petals typically that are curving from the inside and out, I'm going to start the linear detail on the inside edge of the petal, and then the opposite is usually true for the opposite. I'm keeping it simple, using that same brighter orange straight from my palette. Sometimes I'm letting the color run out to give a lovely kind of textural effect. And I'm really kind of holding myself back here. I love this. It's breezy, it's easy, it just feels effortless, and I want to keep it that way. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with the result. Adding a little bit of orange to that bottom leaf and a little extra darkness in the middle, and we are done. This third style of rose is just everything. You take the dropper from an ink bottle and you create a few little squiggles. You don't need much ink at all, so I suggest squeezing out almost all the excess ink. A few swirls, and then a clean, damp brush, maybe slightly more than damp, and you're gonna swoosh around just the edge of the color that you put down. And you're gonna wanna rinse that brush here and there as you go, so you can keep that really beautiful light to dark effect. Rinse that brush again and swirl around, and every so often when you touch those inky marks that you made initially, you're gonna see explosions. The point here, the most important part, I think, is to make sure you're swirling your brush around and around and not layering these on top of one another, but like bricks. I always say it, lay the brush strokes like bricks. And like right before your eyes, some semblance of a really fun rose appears, and it's pretty darn exciting. Now I have a pool of ink right there in the middle. It's a little too heavy, so I'm literally picking up the excess ink from that spot and using it to add some flourishes and floop-de-doos and swirly-cues around the edge that make this rose feel big and floppy and basically just on the edge of the prime of its life. You can apply this technique to the leaves too. A little squirt or a line of ink right from the dropper, and then a clean brush on either side, and boom, you've got leaves. Do a few press, drag, and lifts with your dirty, quote-unquote, brush to add a few more leaves here and there around the bigger leaves. And I felt like I needed a little more dimension, so I grabbed a little bit more of that ink from my container, and with the tip of my brush added a few C's here and there, a few smiley faces, whatever you want to call them, a few curved marks with a press, drag, and lift. And now I'm going in with the very tip of my brush and adding some of that linear detail to make these petals look like they're curving and kind of evolving out from the center of the flower. I'm following the contour of the petals like I did earlier, and I'm using a light touch and a loose arm to make sure these lines feel effortless and just lovely. Now that spot of ink in the middle is just too daggone heavy, and so I'm cleaning my brush and adding a little bit of that bleed-proof white on top to brighten up that area again, and there you have it. Now my brush is super dirty. There's a little green on there, there's a little bit of the white, there's a little bit of that magenta, so I'm gonna go ahead and run it out for some veins in my leaves. And we've got it. I've decided something. I'm gonna call these freedom roses. And these roses are meant to make you brave. Freedom roses might end up in the you-know-what bucket, but it was the making of them that mattered the most anyway. All right, friends, head into comments again because I want to hear what frustrates you most about painting roses. And if you've got roses licked, then let me know what other flower is driving you insane. And while you're at it, I'd love for you to give this video a boop. That's a like. It really helps out the channel. Here's what I want you to remember when you're trying your very own freedom roses. You're not trying to, number one, get the most realistic, convincing petal overlaps. You know what I'm talking about. Number two, you're not trying to avoid a tornado-looking rose because it doesn't look real. Because those tornado roses, yeah, they're gonna happen, and it's okay. Number three, you're not trying to copy another's recipe rose. Freedom roses are a kind of throw spaghetti and see what sticks practice. It's built for watercolor breakthroughs and unexpected magic. All right, I want you to flex your muscle with that inky technique a little bit more next. So friends, watch this video coming up. It is so freeing and so fun. And until next time, happy painting.